Shane Half NFL. And I'm joined today by the best co-host in the game. You've heard him on the Saturday morning spread right here on the Eagles Pinpool Network. It is Mark Henry Jr. Get Mark Henry Jr. NFL. Mark. Oh no, I just totally botched that. I was just saying it confuses me that it's Mark Henry Jr. on Twitter at Mark Henry Jr. NFL. I go into my whole script I've used for 200 episodes before you changed your handle, and it just throws me off. So we're already off to a great start. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. A little this would normally go in the final thoughts, but Tuesday, as a team, as a fan of Notre Dame, a team in the college football playoff mix, Tuesdays have become a little bit of a holiday here towards the end of the year. Checking each Tuesday rankings, and Notre Dame got ranked 9. Oklahoma got ranked number 8, by the way. And I'll say I've defended what the committee has done all year on Notre Dame. I do not understand Notre Dame over Alabama when Alabama beat Georgia, and our best wins USC, but I'll take it. So that's what I've been thinking about for the last hour.
Yeah, Alabama just can't get over that Oklahoma hump 2 years in a
You
row
guys
now.
own them. You
Apparently,
own them.
it's great. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to watch Oklahoma's defense play football. And I found myself this last week. I didn't get to watch the game live, so I had it recorded. And by like the second half, I was like watching the defense and just fast forwarding the offense, like just skip back to when we're on defense again, which is kind of a similar experience to watching the Eagles. Actually, there's a lot of parallels between OU and Philadelphia. Both have top defenses in the league, and their offenses stink. But we're not here to talk college football or the Eagles. We're actually here to talk about the rest of the games. But maybe you'll get a Mark and I watch party for an OU Notre Dame playoff game. That could be fun, or not. That might not. That might be the watch party that ends a podcast.
Yeah. It's so funny. I ultimately, like, Notre Dame's my fourth team in terms of the three Philly teams. I'm not a hockey fan, but the Eagles, Sixers, and Phillies are all above Notre Dame for me. Weirdly, I'm like crazier though during Notre Dame games than I am like Eagles or Phillies games, which I care about much more. There's something weird about me that I get bizarrely upset and angry during Notre Dame game. Maybe it's because I don't have as many friends or family in my life that are diehard Notre Dame fans with me, where Philly fans, when it's agony, you're living with so many of us, it feels like. So it's like more of a communal thing. I don't know what that is. I'll go to a psychologist for that to figure that out sometime.
Yeah. Well, let's dive into this week 11 action. And there's a lot of close games this week. And in fact, we're going to start off with back-to-back overtime games from the Sunday slate. And so let's go first to, neither of them, I guess, are particularly like fascinating overtime games, but they were still overtime games. So you get Washington at Miami in Madrid. Europe's getting a lot of good football games this year, but the Dolphins win this game 16-13, and it is their second straight win. It's their third win in 4 games. And so, not long ago we thought, and I still think McDaniel's going to get fired, but not long ago we thought that would happen mid-season, and all of a sudden they're showing signs of life. So with the Saints and the Jets up next, by the way, they have a good chance to win both of those and get to 6-7. And so it's kind of wild to think about that's where we're at with the Dolphins. No. I will be making no hand gestures. I said 6-7, Mark. I very clearly said the and. Talking about win-loss records here. But for the Dolphins, the offense runs through Devon Achane. He was 21 for 120 as a rusher and 5 for 45 as a receiver. And I think Washington's going to look back at this game and see it as a game of missed opportunities, which is a good microcosm for their season, missed opportunities. But in a tie game with 7 minutes left, they were stuffed on a 3rd and goal at the 1 and then threw an incomplete pass on 4th down. And then the defense gets a stop, but they muffed the punt, so Miami recovers it and gets another chance. Then the defense has a goal line stand of their own and gives the ball back to the offense with 1:41 left, 99 yards from the end zone. and they managed to set up a 56-yard field goal, which they missed. Go to overtime, throw a pick on the first play, and Miami wins the game. So just a comedy of errors there for Washington, not able to steal a win on the road with Marcus Mariota. What were your thoughts on this one?
I bet Washington in this one, or not Washington. I'm sorry, I bet Miami in this one. So I was plugged in on this one, and neither team wanted to win this game. They were both begging to lose it towards the end. I don't have much to say on this one other than just to say Devon Achan's very good, and that I'm going to be very sad when Washington drafts Jeremiah Love in the top 5 to 10 of the draft this year from Notre Dame. And ruins his career / makes me watch him against the Eagles for the next 5 to 10 years. But I'll give my dad a shout out. He's a listener to our show. He texted me on Sunday morning before the Madrid game started and said, or actually called me, I should say. And he brought up somehow, he was like, the Dolphins are going to win their next 3 games. They have an easy schedule. And I was like, what? I was like, the Dolphins are not. I was like, the Dolphins can't have an easy schedule.
They are the easy schedule.
He said something like they're playing awful teams, and I was like, they are the awful team. So now if they win those 3 games, he is going to demand to come on this show, demand to come on my show, and take my job. He's gonna all of a sudden be a Dolphins fan against the Saints and the Jets these next 2 weeks. So a fun little tidbit for me. I'm now rooting against the Dolphins, so they lose one of these 2 weeks, so I don't have to hear about it.
If they win them both, I feel like we got to get a guest appearance on the show or something.
I'm sure he'd love that.
We can get him to record or at least record a hit we can play.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's go to the other overtime game. Carolina at Atlanta. Carolina wins 30-27 in overtime, and Bryce Young threw for a career-high 448 yards and 3 touchdowns against the Falcons, and that was all after being injured in the first quarter and given a questionable-to-return tag. But I don't think he even missed a snap, and he turns in this performance, and that's not just a personal best, but it's a franchise record in passing yards. So Cam Newton no longer the single-game leader in passing yards for the Panthers. Bryce Young led a go-ahead drive at the end of the game, but the Panthers promptly gave up a field goal to send it into overtime, where they did end up winning. And he did all of that without much of a run game either. Rico Dowdle was held to 45 yards on 19 carries, really handicapping my fantasy team, by the way, having Justin Herbert as my quarterback and Rico Dowdle was my big midseason pickup, but I digress, not a fantasy show. Tet McMillan had 8 receptions for 130 yards and 2 touchdowns. So good performance for the Panthers, who find themselves only a game out of first place in the division, I believe now. And on the Atlanta side, just disaster. Michael Penix Jr. left this game with an injury. It has since been announced that it was a season-ending injury. And by the way, don't forget the Falcons traded their first-round pick to the Rams this upcoming draft. So congratulations to the Rams for getting a top 5 pick from a dumb team that traded a future first for not a quarterback. And then on top of all that, Drake London also got hurt in this game, who is also on my fantasy team. So it's Armageddon for my fantasy team. But Drake London, at least, is not expected to miss significant time. But it's not that the Falcons really had a shot to win the division, but the Penix injury is almost even worse because this is a guy who basically didn't play as a rookie. And now his season ends halfway through. And so it's just going to cost him all those development reps, which... Again, Penix, major injury history in college, too, as Brett Eclipse is pointing out now. And that was always a concern with Penix as well. Older prospect, injury prone, and now he's got another major injury. So really, really bad feeling for the Falcons after this one.
Yeah, I mean, this season's over. You're looking towards next season, and you don't have the pick to look forward to. They're in one of the worst positions in the NFL, pretty point blank. Maybe the worst position in the NFL. You don't have your GM figured out. You don't have your head coach figured out. You don't have your quarterback figured out. And you do have some talent on the team. So maybe that saves it from being the worst. You have Bijan. You have Drake London. You have a couple pieces on now in terms of pass rushers that you got in the draft, and a couple of young guys on the defense. But it's hard to fathom, like we talked about last week, that you spent all that money on Kirk Cousins and you drafted Michael Penix, and now going into next year you feel good about neither. But with no first round pick, I'm sure they're not doing well in terms of cap, in terms of trying to. I'm not aware, but I'm sure they don't have a lot of money to go get a quarterback, and I also don't think that there's going to be quarterbacks available to go get in terms of free agency next year. So seems like Atlanta's going to have to run back the Penix thing, which is, it's even harder because it's harder to give up on him now when you don't have quite as many games. He's only started probably like 10 total games at this point, or 11, 12 total games, whatever it is, with the couple he started last year. So it's just developmentally really brutal for Atlanta. Do you fire your coach in Raheem Morris and hand a new coach this kind of 1 year band-aid at quarterback? And it just feels like since Matt Ryan left, Atlanta's just been cycling quarterback coach situations to try to figure it out. And I don't know what to do if I'm the Falcons at this point.
Yeah, they could get out of the Kirk Cousins contract.
They will.
It'd be 35 million dead cap, which I'm sure they will take after this season's over. They can post June 1 him and get it to like 22.5 million for 2026. But yeah, I don't know. He's not the solution. You hope Penix is back, but Penix hasn't looked great either. But yeah, I'm sure they're gonna. They're going to run it back with Penix. They're not gonna have another option. They don't have a first round pick.
Yeah.
And you hope this is his last injury and that he, progresses. But essentially, this is a guy that hasn't even played a full season yet, and he's going to be going into year 3 as an older prospect to begin with.
And then on the flip side, on Carolina, and on the positive side, a guy who I had ranked 4th overall on my big board last year, and I believe you had him 11th. Dives had him 5th, and our average was 9 for the consensus on Tet McMillan, who is an absolute stud. He is 6th in the NFL in receiving yards, and you look at the guys ahead of him, guys like JSN, who have had Sam Darnold slinging it all year, George Pickens, who has Dak, Jamar, who had some Burrow, and he's Jamar Chase. Puka had Matt Stafford. Tet is up there with Bryce Young. Tet McMillan has more receiving yards than guys like Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and plenty of others. He is, I think, pretty quickly going to have to be kind of talked about in those top 10 to 15 conversations. Not this year, but within the next couple of years. And the fact that his kind of, I guess he ended up going 8th, so he didn't really slide down the draft, but all the draft nerds out there who had him like 35th and were trying to say he shouldn't go in the first round, or you had him like wide receiver 8 on your big boards, and people saying he didn't care about football, like all that stuff. The Tet McMillan draft discourse was so dumb, and I want to remember that, going forward when we have the next guy who gets picked apart in the way that Tet did.
Yeah. Tet's been good. Like you said, really great game for him. Catches the 2 touchdown passes. And we kind of talked about coming out of the draft that we thought one of the big winners was Bryce Young, because he got this guy that we both thought was going to be a really good wide receiver to kind of help him in a make or break year. And I would have called it a break year for Bryce Young. And of course, he's doing the same thing he did last year, where he's maybe going to string together a couple good games now to make you rethink that. And maybe that's just the trajectory he's always going to be on. But they definitely appear to have got a good one in Tet McMillan. So, all right. Anything else on that game before we move on?
No, nothing for me.
Okay. Let's go to Buffalo. Tampa Bay at Buffalo. Buffalo wins 44-32. It started bad for Josh Allen. He is intercepted at his own 5-yard line on his second play of the day. But the Bills' defense held the Bucs to a field goal, and Allen rebounded to have a career day. He ends up throwing for 3 touchdowns. He rushes for 3 touchdowns. It was the second game of his career with 3 rushing touchdowns and 3 passing touchdowns. And this was with Keon Coleman on the bench and Dalton Kincaid injured. And so this is a team that has had a really difficult time getting weapons around Josh Allen. They spent a first round pick on Dalton Kincaid. They traded out of the first round, but just back a couple spots to take Keon Coleman. I think it was 33 overall. Maybe it was 34. And he's benched now. But Josh Allen just continues to produce. And it was an awesome day from him. The Bucks had a good performance from the running backs, especially considering Bucky Irving was still out. Sean Tucker had 106 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also added 34 receiving yards and a receiving touchdown. Rashad White had 51 yards on 10 carries, so good production from the run game. And this was a back and forth game, and then Baker threw a third quarter interception that kind of changed the tide of the game. He later had a fumble in the fourth quarter, and but the Bills just continued to score and score and score some more. And it's hard to compete with that, especially when you're missing as much as Tampa is. So the Bucks dropped to 6-4. This is their second straight loss. And at this point now, they only lead the Panthers by a half a game for the division.
Yeah, I'm not worried about that. I think Tampa will take care of business there. They already beat Carolina once this year. I think so, right? Didn't they?
Yeah, I think they did. I have to
No,
check.
I'm wrong. Schedule. They played them twice. So even more like Tampa's gonna. I think at very worst split that. But I think they'll take care of business there. And I actually think people are too down on Tampa in general right now. If you look at power rankings, kind of really reacting to this game, I know the call had them like 12 or 13 overall in power rankings, and I don't know why I'm willing to give Tampa more grace sometimes and in this game than I am other teams. But you look at the last 2 games, and they lost to the Patriots in a close game, and they lost to the Bills in Buffalo in a game that had 9 lead changes. So, like, I think there was midway through the fourth quarter, I was saying this was like the game of the year so far. It was so fun to watch up and down. Tampa was running the ball really well. Buffalo throwing it all over the place. Josh was so fun to watch. And I'm not going to kill Tampa for losing to what I think might be the 2 best teams in the AFC in the last 2 weeks, especially when you look at all the pieces they don't have. Tampa, to me, is shaping up to eventually be the team that kind of puts it together. And by puts it together, I mean plays after next week, plays the Cardinals, Saints, Falcons, Panthers, Dolphins, and Panthers. So I think that we're picking the Bucks apart. But you look at all the games that the Bucks have played in the last 7 weeks. They've played the Eagles, the Seahawks, the Niners, the Lions, the Patriots, and the Bills. Like, that's 6 playoff teams right there. And they've lost what? They're 3-3, or they're 3-4 in that stretch. But that's not the worst thing you could be. And now with this easy stretch coming up, I mean, you have this Rams game next week, but after that, the schedule eases up at the same time that they'll be getting Bucky Irving back. They'll be getting Mike Evans back. They'll be getting pieces on the O-line back. I'm kind of buying stock in Tampa right now as a team that I think we're going to feel a lot better about come Christmas time, come New Year's. I think we're going to feel a lot differently about Tampa. Tampa's going to be ranked, fringe top 5 in those power rankings by then, instead of being, fringe top 15 where they are in some power rankings right now.
Yeah, they're an interesting case because I feel like we've been saying if they can get healthy for such a long time, and it's just continued to not happen. And yet, I mean, I don't think the Panthers are for real, and so I think they're still going to win the division. And, we said with this roster, if it can get healthy, this could be a really scary team in the NFC. So I'm not sure what to think of them overall. I just really hope they're able to get healthy and to go on a bit of a run so we can see.
Yeah, and I will get to the Bills in a second. What I will say about this too, Panthers schedule coming up here at San Fran, Rams at home. They do get at Saints. Then you get 2 Tampa games, and you also have Seattle. Whereas Tampa has the schedule I just read with the Dolphins and the Falcons and 2 Panthers games and the Saints. Like, I think it's really, really unlikely that becomes up in the air. But so yeah, I am buying that. I think Tampa probably ends up going 12-5, 11-6. And I actually think that they're a live dog. They're a 7-point dog in LA on Sunday Night Football next week. I actually think they could win that game outright. We'll talk about the Rams when we get to that game. But flipping it over to the Buffalo Bills, the Bills are the Bills. Like Josh Allen is a stud, and Sean McDermott has a fatal flaw in his defense that feels like we can look at it in the eye in week 11 and say this is going to kill your season. And I feel like that's happened in the past, and it's been right in the past. And this time it's different, though. This time they can't stop the run, and I don't know how you're going to fix that. Um, I think Buffalo, their playoff life is almost going to depend on matchups. Like, and you'd think normally that would be, you want to avoid Patrick Mahomes. Maybe you want to avoid Drake May. It almost seems to me, if you're the Bills, like you'd want to avoid like the Colts with Jonathan Taylor. Like you might want to avoid like the Ravens if they can get right here.
Yeah.
Like it's interesting with the Bills that I think that I don't see them stopping the run getting any better.
Yeah, you look at the Bills giving up 32 points to the Bucks, and then you see since the Bucks got beat up, they've put up 9 points to the Lions, 23 points on the Saints, 23 points on the Patriots, and then they dropped 32 on the Bills. And so yeah, as it tends to be, it's going to be the defense that causes this team problems. Eventually, Josh Allen can go nuclear and win you a game, 2 games, but asking him to do it 3 times in a row in January, that's just, I feel like that's what has to happen for them to win, and it's possible. Like, I'd be scared of him in a game, but it just seems like the odds of, that double 6 roll coming up 3 times in a row isn't super high.
Yeah, I mean, 29 carries for 158 yards from the running backs in this game for Tampa. So, yeah, it's just, you're going to need Josh to be superhuman, and he's going to do it a lot of times, but 3 straight in the playoffs, maybe 4 straight, or obviously 4 straight, but 3 straight and potentially all being on the road. I don't see it.
Yeah. All right, let's keep rolling to Chicago at Minnesota. Chicago wins 19-17. The Bears led 16-3 going into the fourth quarter, but they gave up a big punt return that led to a quick touchdown for the Vikings. Then they missed a 45-yard field goal and saw the Vikings score to take a lead with 50 seconds left before being bailed out by a 56-yard kick return that put them in range to hit the go-ahead field goal as time expired. So Chicago gets out of here in a win, or with a win, in a game where I'll just say both quarterbacks looked bad. I think it's fair to say that, 9 or J.J. McCarthy, man, I don't want to write the book on a guy's career, like 7 starts into his career, but he's been so bad. And Kevin O'Connell is a guy that we generally credit with being a QB whisperer, and it's just looked really bad. And so it's hard to be hopeful about that. On the Bears side, you're winning games. I don't know that Caleb looks and feels like a fit with Ben Johnson, though. Like, he seems to heat up in small stretches and you see flashes, but the consistency's not there. But, and this is key, Chicago keeps winning games. And with the Eagles' victory over the Lions, Chicago has now won more games than Detroit, which is certainly fun to see after the disgraceful chanting in the Week 1 matchup between these two teams.
Yeah, I tweeted it out, I think, but it was just someone screenshotted the NFC playoff picture and the matchups right now. And I said the Eagles as the 1 seed, the Chicago Bears as the NFC North champions, the Detroit Lions not in the playoff picture. Don't pinch me. I don't want to wake up. But I'm happy that the Eagles Bears alliance that Brett Close just commented about can be complete. They beat the entire NFC East besides us. We beat the entire NFC North besides them. Now we have to meet. It's all business. We're brothers, brothers in arms. The Chicago Bears and
United
the
by a
Eagles.
double doink.
Yes, united by the doink. We'll have to give them a loss, and that'll be fine. They can handle it, and they'll go out and try to win the division. But no, it's absolutely a win for the Bears to be 7-3. I'm actually kind of in like Chicago Bears country, working with Bears fans right now, and they were asked. They know I'm a big football guy. They were asking me like how real is this, and I kind of had to be like, the playoffs are the goal. Like if you win the division, that's unbelievable. And it's you're so far ahead of schedule, and at that point you can start thinking crazy things. But just try to get to the playoffs. Just get in and win these manageable games. Their schedule is brutal down the stretch. It is.
Yeah.
They have this game this week for Chicago, and I said this last week, and I think I was right. This game this week is the season. This game this week decides if it was completely Mickey Mouse and fake, or if they will at least manage to hang on to a playoff spot. You play Pittsburgh this week. Let's say you win that game, you get to 8-3. Then you go to Philly, you go to Green Bay, you play Cleveland in a game that you're gonna have to win. You play Green Bay again, you go to San Fran, and then you host the Lions team that beat you 52-21, I think. So there is no letting up the rest of the schedule for this Bears team. You're going to have to beat the Steelers. You're going to have to beat the Browns. And you're probably going to have to find a way to win one of those other really tough games against the Eagles, 2 Packers games, the Niners in San Fran, or the Lions. You're going to probably have to try to find a way to win one of those games. It's not going to be easy. But if they would have lost this game to Minnesota, I think even at 6-4, you could have said it's over. They're not making it.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's keep rolling.
Oh, and by the way, 9 thumbs down for JJ. Yeah. Just wanted to say that he's a joke. He's a loser. If you look like this in a Kevin O'Connell offense with Justin Jefferson, you suck. I mean, it's just not to be that like blunt about it, but I get it. Like people are like, oh, but he has something at the end of games and he's fun. Yeah, he's got Kevin O'Connell and Justin Jefferson. It's a joke that it's only happening at the end of the games in 2-minute drills. Like, how can you not figure out a way to put some semblance of it together? Not to mention Jordan Addison and TJ Hawkinson and like 2 pretty decent running backs. And JJ cannot be the quarterback in week 1 next year, but he probably will be.
Yeah. All right, let's keep rolling here. We're going to have to pick up the pace a little bit, Mark. We're not going to have time for our final thoughts at the end. But we've gone through a lot of the good games. We're about to go on a run of ones that aren't so good. But Green Bay at the Giants. Green Bay wins 27-20. Christian Watson caught 2 touchdowns in this game. One from Jordan Love and one from Malik Willis, who was in the game for an injured Jordan Love for a brief time. Love returned. However, Josh Jacobs left the game with a knee injury that leaves him week to week for now. And the Packers offense just continues to have issues. The wide receivers had 4 drops on the day. But Luke Musgrave had one of them. But pass catchers, I should say, had 4 drops on the day. The drops weren't limited to the defense. There were also at least 3, maybe 4 Jameis Winston passes that hit Packers defenders in the hands that got dropped. Jameis did finally succeed in turning the ball over, though, throwing an interception in the end zone with 40 seconds left while trailing by 7. Then the defense got a quick 3-and-out, and then Jameis fumbled on the next play. So the final 2 plays of Jameis Winston were both turnovers. Meanwhile, the Packers have allowed 20 or fewer points in 7 of their 10 games this season, which is the first time they've done that since 2010 when they won the Super Bowl. So the defense has been good. The offense needs to be better. They need to clean some operations up, but I think this is still a football team that can be dangerous in January. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I still think if you're making me pick who wins that division, I still would pick Green Bay. The half game ahead of Detroit thing, kind of with the win over Detroit, gives me kind of the the lean to Green Bay, but I also think there's a chance the Tucker Kraft injury has killed any chance this offense had at being good. I mean, they can be fine, they can be above average, maybe even, but I think any hope we had at Jordan Love being like a fringe top 7-ish guy and kind of elevating this, and you have Josh Jacobs, good O line. I just you don't have the weapon. And you mentioned drop passes. That's what's going to happen when you have 9 guys catching 15 passes. They only completed 15 passes and they went to 9 different guys. And when you ask that many people to have a part in the offense, some people are going to let you down as opposed to, having 2 or 3 receivers and a tight end and maybe a running back. But Green Bay doesn't know what they have, so they kind of have to use every little piece that they have because they don't really have any one huge guy to rely on. The Giants outplayed them in this game. They also had like double the penalty yardage, obviously 2 turnovers, and Jalen Hyatt didn't run a route at the end of the game on that Jameis pick. Like,
Yeah.
really weird stuff at the end of the game. But this game made me feel worse about Green Bay, honestly, than better. I will say Jameis looks skinny. I don't know if that's not really an actionable thought or really anything beyond just me saying. Thought Jameis looks skinny. Good for him.
Yeah. Yeah. Abdul Carter also benched for the opening series in this game for sleeping through a meeting, per team sources, which he came out and denied today and said that he was in recovery, not sleeping, which is definitely something I'm going to use in the future. So just file that one away, those of you out there that sleep at work.
He's a weird guy. Just file that away for the people out there. Like, he was injured last year at Penn State and was like tweeting Star Wars like videos as like updates on his injury, and then like got mad when got asked about it, like in the media. Like, he's a weird guy, and there was some weird stuff with him in the draft process, if people remember. And I think his dad kind of trying to handle his draft process and some stuff. There's some weird stuff with Abdul Carter. He's a little Kayvon Thibodeau-ish, I would say. So then he gets drafted by the Giants and gets to learn from Kayvon. I would say that probably didn't help that. But yeah, weird guy.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's keep rolling. Houston at Tennessee. Houston wins 16-13. I mean, this was a battle of backup quarterbacks. This was a battle of a backup quarterback against a 1-win team that, despite the fact it was close, doesn't really interest me at all. All I'll really say about this one is that Nico Collins continues to emerge as he plays with Davis Mills. And that's something CJ Stroud has to figure out how to do when he gets back, get the ball to Nico Collins. But I really don't have much on this game. Is there anything you want to talk about with Texans or Titans?
I mentioned the Falcons being in the worst spot in the league. I think you could say that the Titans are easily the most talent poor team in the league. And then you are stuck with Cam Ward, I think, for another 2 years probably. So I think you can make a strong case the Titans are the worst team in the league. Worst situation going forward. But Texans are 5-5. I guess they're in the playoff mix. They're not. That's all I have to say.
Yeah. All right. Cincy at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh wins 34-12.
1 minute warning.
All right, I can do that. Joe Flacco might have gotten the best of the Steelers in his Cincinnati debut, but it didn't happen this time. He was largely contained. He even threw a pick six as the Steelers rolled through this one. Aaron Rodgers did not play in the second half with an injury that we found out later is a fractured wrist, that it's his left wrist, and apparently he's pushing to play through it, so that's something to keep an eye on. But Mason Rudolph played in the second half and went 12 of 16 for 127 yards and a touchdown. No sacks, no turnovers. Kenny Gainwell had 24 rushing yards and 81 receiving yards with 2 receiving touchdowns. But the real storyline out of this game is Jalen Ramsey getting ejected for throwing a punch at Jamar Chase. He said after the game that Jamar Chase spit on him, which Jamar Chase denied, like a moron that didn't realize there are hundreds of cameras at an NFL game capturing every possible angle. And in fact, he did spit on him. And so Jamar Chase has been suspended for the upcoming game. I do have a question for you, Mark.
What?
Had Jalen Ramsey like shoved him instead of punching him and just gotten flagged or something and not ejected from the game, do you think Jamar Chase would have been suspended for the next game?
Yeah, I think they set a precedent with Jalen
Okay.
Carter.
Well, but I mean, I guess technically they kind of tried to phrase it that since it happened before the game started, that served as his 1 game suspension.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was curious how that would have been handled if it hadn't resulted in a Ramsey ejection. But yeah, just complete tomfoolery, we'll say,
I'm
from Jamar.
over. I'm over the spitting dramas because then it's like the like you don't spit on another man and like the macho conversations from like NFL dudes on like NFL Network getting upset about it. It's like, yeah, but like people used to talk about like people gouging eyes out in like the bottom of a pile and like other horrible, unthinkable stuff happening at the bottom of the pile and things getting grabbed and yeah, like I I I think that whatever. I'm not gonna like say like spit on people, but like I think we act
Mark
like
is defending assault
yeah.
and battery, by the way.
I think we act like these guys getting like fist fights and stuff, and it's like, oh, that's no big deal. But then like a guy spits, and it's like, call the police. Like I don't know. Like
I
it's
mean,
all bad.
I'd probably rather somebody punch me in a helmet than spit on me, but
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know about that, but I feel yeah, you're probably right. And the helmet factor is good.
yeah, I always think people that punch somebody else in a helmet are pretty stupid.
Yeah, it's dumb.
So, yeah. All right. To be clear, this is a no spitting on people podcast. All right, let's keep rolling. Chargers at Jaguars. Jaguars roll 35-6. It's a week after blowing a game they had a stranglehold on against the Texans. It was in our podcast title last week that they blew a 19-point lead. The Jags dominated the early game, but this time they didn't give it away late. So leading 14-6 at halftime. They ate 7 minutes off the clock on a touchdown drive to start the second half, forced a 3-and-out, then ate another 9.5 minutes off on a scoring drive before a first play interception led to another touchdown. So in the first 19 minutes of the second half, the Jags ran 29 plays that resulted in 21 points, while the Chargers ran only 4 plays. And the Chargers' offensive line is just untenable. The Jags ranked 32nd in the league in sacks per pass attempt, and they posted a 50% pressure rate. Justin Herbert was 10 of 18 for 81 yards and a pick before he was pulled late in the game, and the Chargers' dropback success rate was only 28%. And somehow now I'm seeing my J.J. McCarthy and Caleb Williams notes ended up under this game. And I was like, I knew I wrote things about their stat lines and things, but that ship has sailed. So I'll throw it to you, Mark. I have no idea what happened here, but thoughts on Chargers Jags?
135 total yards for the Chargers, and it's just such a shame. The O line has ruined their season. Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater go out, so you're on your third and fourth tackle. Mekhi Becton has apparently been doing a Lane Johnson impression in LA where he kind of plays every game but misses most of it. But I guess the difference is he's been terrible when he's played even. So he was supposed to fix kind of the interior there. And I think it's just, I still think if this team had Joe Alt and if this team had Rashawn Slater, I think they'd be the best team in the AFC. And I think I'd be picking them to win the AFC. But I think that has ruined their offense and the offense not being able to move the ball whatsoever. I mean, they had 8 first downs in this game to Jacksonville's 30. I think has destroyed any hope that the defense had at maintaining what they were doing early in the season. Like, I don't think all of a sudden that Jesse Minter's an idiot and that the Chargers defense is bad. I think that they're giving up the average field position where the other team's getting the ball on like the 45. So it's pretty hard to do anything when the offense is this incompetent for the Chargers. And I hate to say this, and if I was a Jags fan hearing this on a podcast, I'd be like, are you serious? I didn't take anything away from this game to be like, oh, Jacksonville did this to the Chargers. It felt like the Chargers did it to themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with that. So, okay, let's go into the afternoon slate. The banner game was Seattle at the Rams, and the Rams win 21-19. Sam Darnold threw 4 interceptions in this game, but somehow the Seahawks still found a way to have a shot at the end. They didn't make it. They missed a 61-yard field goal as time expired, but they could have won this game. And so on the one hand, you could say that makes you feel better about Seattle because Sam Darnold had a terrible game. And you don't expect that from a quarterback that's played pretty well. It's probably not going to be that bad again, and they still made it close against an 8-2 team. But I honestly kind of look at it as a negative for both teams. Sam Darnold is still a guy that I don't trust. And then the Rams could only put up 21 points in a game where they recorded 4 interceptions. And granted, it's a divisional game and weird stuff happens, but still. The Seahawks shut down the Rams' heavy personnel offense. They only gained 2.7 yards per play out of 13 personnel. And so there's a chance now Mike McDonald has put the blueprint out on that. And that's just not going to be as effective anymore, which is what has really driven the Rams' success this year. So, I mean, after the first quarter, the Rams had 8 drives for 101 yards. So I feel like there's a way you could walk out of this game feeling better about both teams. If you talk about Seahawks defense almost overcame the Darnold meltdown game, and the Rams defense was awesome. They really got to Darnold, but I kind of just look at both of these offenses instead in the negative lens, and I'm just like, what are you guys doing out here? And I'm not sure. I think it makes me trust both of these teams less.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And my big kind of take from this game was that both of these teams scare me less than they did for the Eagles than they did before the game. I am coming out of both this game lower on both of these teams. The Ryan Russillo meme, I actually came away less impressed with both teams. But Seattle and LA, you look at the fact that Seattle had to turn the ball over 5 times in LA, and they still had a chance to win the game on a 61-yard field goal. And normally I would say all that and say, wow, Seattle played a road game. They went to LA, and all of this happened. They had 5 turnovers, and they still almost won the game. Normally, I'd say, like, man, that proves that Seattle's just as good as we've been saying, and that they're a true, legit Super Bowl contender. But what's the thing holding us back from saying that, Shane?
It's what happened last year with Darnold.
So how am I supposed to say, oh, okay, last night's just a blip on the radar, and that's not something to be worried about come playoff time, when we saw that happen come playoff time last year? So normally I would look at this game and say Seattle's just as good as we thought. Perfect otherwise, other than the turnovers. Turnovers are luck-based most of the time. That'll regress positively to the mean. But we've seen it from Sam Darnold before at this point. So how am I going to say that about Seattle? And then on the flip side with the Rams, the Rams, they're supposed to be this dominant team that's so far above everybody, and the only losses they have are these unlucky losses to San Fran on a Thursday and then the Eagles blocking kicks. Yet they only won this game because of turnovers. Like we just talked about, 5 turnovers and you win by 3 at home and because of a missed field goal at the end. I walk out of this game feeling worse about both teams. You look at the Rams, they scored, they're up 14-3 at the end of the first quarter. After that, they go punt, fumble, punt before they score again in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And then 3 more punts following that, by the way.
Yeah. Well, let's go to the other teams in the division then. San Fran at Arizona. San Francisco wins 41-22. 49ers offense played really well. You get Brock Purdy back. They scored on 8 of 11 possessions before kneel downs, and it does always help to get a kick return to the 1-yard line to start the game. By the way, you're so mad if you're that guy. Opening kickoff, you return it to the
brutal.
1-yard line. But Brock Purdy was 19 of 26 for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. George Kittle got 2 touchdown receptions. Christian McCaffrey had a receiving touchdown and 2 rushing touchdowns. Purdy did have a couple iffy balls that probably should have been picked, but overall, I would say he looked good. And on the Arizona side, it's another team I just don't have much to say about, but I will say committing 17 penalties on the day, setting a franchise record. We're setting records out here in Arizona. 17 penalties in a home game. Jacoby Brissett also threw 57 passes in this game. So, I guess that's what you do when you're behind, but just not a very good game.
Do you know what else Jacoby Brissett did in this game?
What?
He broke the NFL record for completions in this game. With
I didn't realize that.
40.
It was 47, right?
Yeah, Jacoby Brissett with a record-breaking game, and they lost by 19 at home.
Somebody's gonna win a bunch of money on Jeopardy someday, thanks to this podcast.
That's a great trivia question, actually, going forward. But yeah, the Cardinals are a joke. Jonathan Gannon has the defense in the third year, giving up 41 points on the road to San Francisco. And you look and you close your eyes. Is San Francisco's defense good? No. But all of a sudden, Kyle Shanahan's got the whole gang back together on offense. He's got Brock Purdy back in there looking like Brock Purdy. And I will say, I do think I was correct last week pushing back on the quarterback controversy. I do think Purdy came back and said, you know what? That's it. I'm better than Mac Jones, even if Mac Jones did do really well. And Christian McCaffrey looks like Christian McCaffrey. George Kittle catching touchdown. I believe he caught a touchdown in this game, right? He caught 2 touchdowns in this game. And you have Jawan Jennings back and healthy. Ricky Pearsall didn't make he had 1 catch in this game for 0 yards, so didn't show anything in this game, but he's back and healthy. I think the San Fran's offense is going to look like a full-blown Shanahan offense down the stretch here. And you look at the next 3 games, they play Carolina at home, Cleveland, and Tennessee. I think they're going to be 9-4. So I think they might sneak their way back into the division mix. But more than that, I think they're going to make it really hard for them to miss the playoffs for one of these teams that I think we perceive to be a bit more serious. So it's like a Detroit, like a Green Bay, like one of these other potential teams.
Yeah. All right. I had a comment here from Brett Eclipse asking about if pass rush, just skipping back real quick, is Darnold's kryptonite. And it's basically any time that you're just pressured, he's going to fall apart. The only quarterbacks with a worse EPA per drop back when pressured this season are Joe Flacco, who is old and been on his 5th team in 5 years or something.
Yeah.
Geno, who's just bad.
Awful.
Cam Ward, who is maybe bad, but for sure on a bad team.
Well, he's definitely bad right now.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers, who's washed, and Mac Jones, who is a backup. So Darnold is just really bad. So when he's pressured, if he's kept clean, which is one of the reasons they don't really scare me for the Eagles, because with the Eagles pass rush now, I just kind of feel like Darnold will be rattled all game. But all right,
Jared
let's go. Huh?
It would just be Jared Goff part 2.
Yeah. Baltimore at Cleveland. Baltimore wins 23-16, but it took them scoring on 3 straight possessions in the 4th quarter to do it, which isn't exactly where you want to be against the Browns. Their game-winning touchdown came on a 4th and 1 tight end sneak that turned into a tight end sweep for a 35-yard touchdown. So nice little play to dial up there. Big play that wins the game. Dylan Gabriel left the game at halftime with a concussion. And Shedeur Sanders got his first action, going 4 of 16, throwing a pick and taking 2 sacks to end with a 2.4 QBR. But I don't know if you saw it, Mark. Josina Anderson was just lauding the incredible timely pass that he made to convert a 3rd and 10 that was a wide open drag route.
Against all odds.
So, yeah, I will say, you listening to this podcast likely could have made that throw because, again, it was a wide open drag route, the easiest pass you could make in the NFL. But, somebody's getting some nudging under the table from dad maybe to, do some stuff there. But, uh, he's not the first person that struggled in his debut, and he won't be the last, but that's just embarrassing. It's an embarrassing look for NFL media members to be doing that. He's not the only person that struggled in this game. Lamar struggled in this game too. He went 14 of 25 with 2 picks and 5 sacks. So,
Really bad.
of course, he was facing Myles Garrett. So, but still, the Ravens do get out with the win, and they continue to surge towards the playoffs.
Not to make like a Lamar playoffs joke, and I have no interest in making one of those jokes, but it is that's one of the worst games I've ever seen Lamar play in the regular season. In any game, the way he was handling pressure from Miles especially was just, it felt like he forgot he was Lamar Jackson and that he could run away from pressure, or that he could move in the pocket a little bit. It's just, and Miles was dominating, and he's going to do that. I mean, he had 5 sacks. It was against New England that he had 5 sacks, or I forget who Garrett had the 5 sacks against, but he's dominated multiple teams, and we've seen it time in and time out. He's been, by far the best player in the league this year defensively. But the Ravens have won 4 in a row. This game did not inspire confidence that, we can just get right back in the mix as a true deal contender. And it also didn't inspire confidence that they're just going to handle these next 4 games. Because if you're the Ravens, I think you have to win the next 4. You have to beat the Jets, Bengals, but you also have to beat Pittsburgh and Baltimore. So I kind of think you have to win these next 4 games and be 9-5, which would mean they would have won 8 games in a row at that point. And at that point, I'm sure I'll feel better about it. But after this game, I kind of thought I would be the one kind of early in this run being like, let's put Baltimore right back in the mix as contenders. But that was a horrible, horrible offensive performance.
Yeah, it was. I feel like there's always a little bit of a willingness for me to discount weird results from a divisional game. Like,
yeah,
divisional matchup. I think I've said it a couple times in this game or in this podcast that weird stuff happens in divisional matchups. And so I'm willing to discount one-off performances there. But it's something definitely to keep an eye on going forward. It's on my radar. So, okay, let's go to the Sunday night game. Kansas City at Denver. Kansas City loses 22-19. The Broncos now have a 4-win lead over the Chiefs. They've also got a 2-game lead over the Chargers, but the Chargers aren't going anywhere. So honestly, congratulations, Denver, for winning the AFC West. I think we can call the race here. Kansas City took a 19-16 lead in the fourth quarter, but then the Broncos held the Chiefs to back-to-back 3-and-outs while kicking a pair of field goals to win the game. Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce both had drops. Mahomes threw 2 interceptions. One was a pick 6 that was wiped out by a penalty. The other interception stood. They also committed 10 penalties. So the Chiefs could honestly, legitimately be headed towards missing the playoffs if they don't figure some things out. Now, I don't think that's going to happen, but it's a real possibility as they sit at 5-5. I will also say on Denver's side, they couldn't run the ball in this game. But Bo Nix was 5 of 8 for 156 yards on throws, over 15 air yards. And so the deep passing was hitting for Denver in this game, and it ends up being the major difference.
Yeah, I mean, this is just like the story of the AFC this year is that you're going to have to pick one of the new kids on the block to not be surprised if they go on a run. Because I think the I don't even know what the word for it is, but what a lot of people are doing is just saying, well, I'll ignore the regular season. And I think we've even done it on this show a little bit to discredit myself, I guess, but saying, like, well, KC's just going to be in the Super Bowl anyway, or, it's going to be KC, Buffalo, or Baltimore, or once they figure this out, like, I'm not picking anybody to beat those teams, whatever it is. At a certain point, when it looks like the 1 seed is probably going to be one of Indianapolis, New England, or Denver, we're going to have to start taking at least one of them seriously. Like, and the odds makers are kind of picking the Colts to be that team. if I was picking, I think I would pick the Patriots out of those three as kind of the team I'm the most seriously considering. But you could make a case for Denver, obviously, at this point, with wins over the Eagles, wins over Kansas City. You could definitely make that case for Denver.
Yeah, I think Denver's the team I would make the case for, but um, I mean, they are a less talented but better coached version of the Eagles, right?
But there's a big difference there in that I know that the Eagles offense has not been good. You were last week saying how Bo Nix is not like a starting level quarterback.
Yeah, and
Whereas,
that's the caveat. And I think
yeah,
so. The thing where I ultimately, and I don't think the Broncos are like a true Super Bowl contender, but somebody has to be, and the AFC
yeah,
is
yeah,
weaker. And I just think back to like the Peyton Manning Super Bowl for Denver, and he could barely throw the football. Now, obviously, he was one of the most cerebral quarterbacks to ever play the game, but Sean Payton in your ear can do a lot to help out with that too. So if you're gonna, by the way, it would maybe be like to non-fans of either team, Eagles Broncos Super Bowl would maybe be like the most boring Super Bowl matchup of all time. It'd be like a 6-3 game. It would be like was it Rams Patriots? Was it the Rams
yeah,
Patriots Super Bowl that
yeah.
was like 13 to
Guaranteed to
7
be
or something?
close at least.
Yeah. So I think Denver is the team out of those three I'm taking seriously. I
We're
just
gonna we're
yeah.
gonna delete a final thoughts. We're not doing power rankings this week. We were gonna do a Super Bowl draft. We're gonna save power rankings for next week. We went a little long here, but I'll just say this: rank the three of Denver, New England, and Indy in terms of how surprised you'd be from least surprised to most surprised if they won the AFC or Super Bowl, however you want to phrase it. I'm gonna say I'd be least surprised if New England made the Super Bowl because to me, I just think if Drake May is really just one of the elite quarterbacks and maybe the best quarterback in the sport right now, the way he's playing, I'm willing to buy that. His arrival is just here and he has Vrabel to kind of figure out the rest of the stuff. I would put Denver second because I do think that defense is elite, and kind of similarly, I think Sean Payton's elite. So you give me a great head coach and you give me a defense, maybe Sean Payton can kind of smooth over the stuff and like he's done so far. Similarly to the Eagles, I think the Broncos are second in 3-and-out percentage. He's kind of mined gold enough on those other drives and found the way to get into the end zone enough on those other drives. So I can buy it more with Denver. The one that I'm not buying nearly as much as the other two, to me, in terms of as a real deal Super Bowl contender, is the team that is currently favored to win the AFC, the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, I'm just flipping year 1 and 2, but the Colts
Yeah.
are 3 for because so the Broncos have an elite defense, right? And an elite coach. The Patriots, I think, have an elite quarterback and a good coach. And
I think
then
maybe a great coach.
maybe a great coach. I just hesitate to use the word elite, but great
I agree.
works.
I agree.
And then you look at Indy, and I think they have a great coach, but I don't think they don't have an elite quarterback. They don't have an elite defense. I just don't see anything that, like, if I'm going to bet on one of those three teams, it's going to be one of the ones that I can hang my hat on. Denver's defense will dominate and they can get there, or Drake May will just go nuclear. And the reason I put the Broncos above the Patriots is just, I mean, they've beaten the Eagles. They have beaten some better teams, but you look at the Patriots, and yeah, they did beat Buffalo 23-20 back in week 5. But the rest of their wins just aren't very impressive. They beat Miami, Carolina, New Orleans, Tennessee, Cleveland, Atlanta, Tampa, but that was last week, and they're super banged up, and the Jets. And you can only beat who's in front of you. And I mean, they do get Buffalo, at Baltimore, week 15 and 16 back to back. So we'll see some more then. But they have had a pretty easy schedule, whereas I think Denver has really gone through it. So I trust Denver a little bit more, but I think May is phenomenal.
I was willing to go along with the schedule thing with New England. I said going into that Bucks game that it was such a litmus test for me. And then going into Tampa and winning that game, and really they were up 28-16, and Tampa kind of scored late to make it look a little closer. I was so impressed with the way that they went into Tampa and the way that they looked in that game. And like you said, it almost made that Bills game to me feel like not a fluke after I saw the Tampa game. And in that, then I'm going to give them credit for two big wins. So, and there's also the aspect of like most of these games against bad teams they've handled. Like
Yeah.
they beat the heck out of Cleveland. They beat the heck out of Tennessee. They beat the heck out of Carolina. Like I think I'm actually like eye test wise. I've heard a lot. You know, people are calling him Drake the schedule May, and the Patriots are kind of being painted with that brush of being just kind of there because of the schedule. It's a big part of it, but I'm kind of believing in them beyond that. But let's move on to the next game.
Yeah. Also, Brett Eclipse asking about Milton Williams. Asked, isn't
Stud.
he out for the season? He's on IR. It was a high ankle sprain, so I would imagine they think he's going to miss 4 games, but that should not be a season-ending thing.
They said he should be back. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. To Monday Night Football. And, Mark, I'm going to put you on the clock for the 1-minute drill here. And if you need something else to talk about in your 60 seconds, maybe explain to me why you spend a top 5 pick on a running back and give him 6 carries. Go.
Well, you spend a top 5 pick on a running back and give him 6 carries if you're down, 24-6 before halftime because you went out and you traded a day 2 draft pick for a quarterback who's in his 30s and then gave him a contract while hiring a head coach who's in his 70s. And normally I would have laughed at that, but I was the one in the offseason saying this team was going to make the playoffs and that the Raiders were going to be confident. And then I liked the quarterback addition. And then I liked the head coach hire. And then at the very worst, the Ravens, if not looking for the future and maybe not rebuilding to the proper way, they were at least going to be competent. And they went out and they added an elite running back. And they had all the pieces to at least be a competent offense. Chip Kelly was going to be an interesting hire. And every single move they made has been an absolute disaster. Everybody's going to overrate this huge Dallas win. The Raiders are an absolute joke. The Raiders stink. They're one of the worst teams in football. And I can't wait to hammer the Eagles next week, -3.5 on Dallas, against Dallas on a short week after everybody glazes Dallas all week because they put up a bunch of points on a Raiders team that has trips booked to Cancun.
I will just say, in the Raiders ran 29 offensive plays before they were down by more than 11 points.
That's
and
fair.
Ashton Genty had 2 carries for 10 yards. So I just malpractice. But yeah, it was a horrible approach. In hindsight, because I liked it too. I mean, I thought Geno coming in, I thought they'd be a punchy team. I never really loved the Carroll thing, but that had more to do with defensive coordinator than his age. So, anyways, all right, let's get into our final thoughts. For our final thoughts, we are going to do a quick 5-round draft of Super Bowl contenders. So, I assume we'll snake it. Do you want first pick or second pick, Mark, or do you care?
Let's put the Eagles out of it, and then I'll let you get first pick.
Oh man, the Eagles would have been one.
Well, yeah,
So
of course.
we're all going to be wrong. None of us are going to get it right because the Eagles are going to win the Super Bowl.
Of course. So Kevin Patullo on the parade float. But I'm just I'm saying if we all win, if the Eagles win the Super Bowl, but let's take the Eagles out of it, and if they don't win, let's draft other ones.
Okay. I'll take the Rams.
Yeah.
Still think Stafford is on a heater. I think maybe this one game thing is a blip on the radar. They've been really impressive this year. And like you said, you could argue that they should be 9-1 if they knew how to kick field goals. So I'll take the Rams at number 1.
And then if I'm getting 2 picks here, I'll take the Patriots because I just said all that. I just gave my reasoning that I do believe. I'm not going to be surprised if they make it. And then I'll take the Bills. I'll take both those teams so I can wrap up the top 2 teams, in my opinion, in the AFC.
All right. Patriots were quite a bit down my list, but the Bills were number 2 on my list. So, well, technically they were number 3, but you made me delete the Eagles. So, all right, give me the Ravens then. I think the Ravens are coming on strong, and you always are going to have the Lamar playoff thing, but maybe this is the year, and I think that they're going to make the playoffs, and if they get to the playoffs, I think they've got as good a shot as anybody. So I will take the Ravens, and then on the wraparound, give me, give me the Lions. I'll take the Lions. Think they could still come out of the North. I think the offense is always going to be dangerous, and the defense, maybe they can get a little more healthy, but they just did a really good job against the Eagles. They've had some really good wins, so I'll take Ravens and Lions.
That was a case where you should have known your audience. I would have never drafted the Lions. No, I'm joking. But I'm going to take Tampa. I gave my reasoning. I think they're going to really kill this schedule down the stretch. And then you get Bucky Irving back. You get Mike Evans back. You get some O-line back. So I'm going to take Tampa. And even though I just laid out all the reasons why we have to start talking about these new AFC teams, I'm still taking Kansas City.
Can't quit Kansas City.
At this point, I have to.
All right. Then give me the Broncos. I need some more AFC exposure, and I made a case for them, so I'll take the Broncos. And then I think I will take the Packers. It's a tough call for me between two teams there, but I'll stick with the Packers.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with Seattle then.
Okay.
I'll take Seattle. Even with Sam Darnold, that defense is so good. If we're going to take like Denver, then I think Seattle's a similar kind of a similar proposition. The difference is that Seattle has to get through the NFC, whereas Denver has to get through the AFC. So it's a much different proposition, but similar kind of styles, you'd think.
If you had one more pick, which team would you pick?
I think it would have to be the Colts at that point. I think it. And by the way, we drafted.
It'd be the 49ers for me.
Over the Colts.
Yeah, I think so.
We drafted, if you include the Eagles, 11 of the top 12 teams in terms of odds, but we did not draft the team with the third best odds to win the Super Bowl in the Indianapolis Colts.
Wow. I can't believe their odds are that high. That seems crazy.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Better odds than the Bills. Better odds than the entire AFC. They are currently the favorites to win the AFC.
Some Colts fans are going to find this clip when the Colts win the Super Bowl and troll us mercilessly.
Hey, I'll give them something else. I can see the Bills, Chiefs, Ravens, Broncos, Patriots all making it before the Colts. So any of the options, pretty much, besides like the Chargers and the Jaguars and the Texans, like I absolutely think any other team that realistically can make the Super Bowl in the AFC has a better chance than the Colts, and they're the favorites. So I'm the idiot, apparently.
Yeah. I don't get it, but maybe they'll prove us wrong. So,
and it's all right. It's also like it's not even like they have the clearest path to the 1 seed. If you go look at Denver and especially New England's schedule down the stretch, it's easier than Indy's, and they're both a win ahead of Indy. Denver and New England are both 9-2, whereas Indy's back at 8-2, and has to make that win up while those teams are on bye in the coming weeks. But I just don't get it. I think New England's going to be the 1 seed, which kind of fuels my belief in New England.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is going to do it. Thank you for joining us for episode number 212 of Chalk Talk. If you enjoy what you heard on the show, and we know that you do, unless you're a Colts fan, apparently, smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next episode. Know that we'll be rooting for the Colts if it's not against the Eagles, because we like Shane Steichen. We are a pro Shane Steichen podcast here. So
the problem with that is we wanted him fired. We wanted him fired so he could save us.
Well, yeah. I mean, we didn't maliciously want his job. We want him back.
Oh, of course.
It's like it's like the ex that broke up with you. You're like, I want him back, right?
No, 100%.
Yeah, want him back.
I wish he didn't find this new hot young thing in Daniel Jones.
What a weird. We are so far off the rails right now. So yeah, Colts fans, we love Shane Steichen. So drop us a 5-star rating. You can just title it Shane Steichen Rocks. You can follow us on Twitter. I am at Shane Half NFL. Mark is at Mark Henry Jr. NFL. And we will catch you